you talked about the differences between, I think it's not just the parties. I think it's maybe in the context of America, conservative versus liberal. I'm going to call it ultra MAGA versus progressive. That there is more in the middle than there is on the extremes, but we're just bombarded by the extremes all the time. And do you think that sort of liberal piece of the country, right? Not only is it being vastly outspent by conservative entities. You even said Democrats don't have a leadership institute, and then sometimes Democrats and liberals sort of offer Republicans the hammer with which to hit them too, right? Which is there's a policy that they believe in desperately, but is fundamentally out of touch with the country, but they're not going to let go of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tricky question because I think what we're all asking ourselves is what we're seeing just a backlash that the country's moving forward, that we're becoming more progressive, that there's more and more equality and more people sort of being brought into the fold, or is this backlash going to turn into the country? And I think the big question here is, will the Democrats make like the Republicans did 50, 60 years ago? Are they going to take this moment of crisis, this moment of loss, this kind of level of devastation that so many Democrats feel, and are they going to get their act together? Are they going to get more organized? Are they going to get more collaborative? Are they going to figure out how to take the big tent that is the Democratic Party and make it a tent that where inside the tent people actually are able to put aside their differences and move towards winning elections, or not? Because I think the biggest problem that you have right now is the Democrats they cannot figure out how to message to people. They just cannot figure out what their message is. They cannot figure out what they bring to the table, and they cannot figure out how to communicate. And what you're seeing now, right, as the polls are dipping, you're seeing the new blame, because the Democrats love to play the blame game, right? And so now they're going to blame, and they're blaming the low information voters. We're hearing a lot about low information voters now, right? Like they're not getting the message. There's no such thing as low information voters, right? What the problem is the Democrats can't figure out how to message to the people who are supposed to be their constituents. So if the Democrats can use this crisis to figure out how to collaborate and unify their message, we'll be okay. If they can't figure that out, who knows what's going to happen?
So I travel the country a lot. I spend far more time with Democrats, both voters, activists, leaders, donors, than I ever thought I would. And I get asked the question about messaging, Kyle, all the time. The problem with your messaging is that messaging is a derivative of belief. And no one knows what the hell you believe in because none of y'all can agree on what you believe in. And I think there are some of you who believe in stuff that is probably pretty mainstream, but you're scared to death of those who don't agree with it coming after you.
The internecine warfare between the young Democrats and the elder Democrats is just a huge, huge problem. And there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of mistrust. Obviously, we always go back to the defund the police as like the best example. How did that happen, right? Reed, how did that happen? How it happened was that the young progressive groups do not get funding or support or communication or assistance from the party central, right? And so what happens is they go off on their own and they come up with messaging that's totally alienating. They launch the messaging, then their elders come in, mad as hell. They've created all these problems for people, and then they attack them. Those gaps can be avoided if these progressive groups are better funded and better supported and better connected to the party. And if they're better connected to the party, that defund the police would have been a conversation in a room with a bunch of really good strategists. Let's lay out some options. What about this? What about saying this? What about saying that? That's going to alienate my people. Okay, you know who works like that? Republicans. They get together and they have these conversations. And you know what Democrats say about that? It's nefarious. They're meeting, they're organizing, they're working together. Their ideas are nefarious, but the action, the actual organizing part of it, that's good politics.